Hi folks, welcome to week number 4 of Interpersonal Communications Online for Spring 2014. As you can see by the schedule that is on our screen, we are cruising right along. Here we are at week number 4, which is February 3rd through February 9th. I always tell my students that when we get to week number 4, we are officially a fourth of the way through. So just kind of gives you a good idea how very quickly this semester goes. And for some reason, and I'm not sure why this is, probably because we're not seeing each other each week, but students will tell me that online classes seem to go at even a quicker rate than their face-to-face classes. So as we move into week number 4, I just want to remind you to please keep up with the schedule. Matter of fact, I just am going to put a plug in again to be working ahead, just to make sure that you are not missing any due dates. Last week, week number 3, we did have our first quiz completed, and you folks did a nice job on those. I'm seeing very, very good scores. Our average was in the low 80s, so a low B across the board in both of my sections for those students who took the quiz. So that's fabulous. Quick reminder, again, if you did not get the score that you wanted, and if you're shooting for the A and you weren't up in the 80 or 90 percentile, then I really want to encourage you to review what you're doing as you are preparing for the quizzes. And I'm going to just direct you one more time back to that 5-step process that I have outlined on a document attached to our course homepage. It really should, folks, take you 2 to 3 hours to prepare for each one of our quizzes. And again, that includes reading through that whole chapter, watching the videos, going to any internet links, then going back through the chapter a second time, using the PowerPoint slides as your format and taking notes, going through the chapter a third time, making sure that you are completing all of the definitions for the vocabulary and writing down page numbers. Making sure that you're doing any discussion postings or any writing assignments done, and then one last review of both your notes and the vocabulary before you sit down to take the quiz. Remember what I believe it was Einstein who said the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. If you did not get the result that you wanted on this first quiz, then you need to change it up a little bit. You need to try to do something a little bit different in your preparation process. Please don't forget about the folks down in the Learning Resource Center. They are more than happy to help you kind of figure out what study or preparation skills might work. I also would refer you back to that VARC learning style inventory that you took and have you go back to some of the suggestions that were made there under your SWOT analysis, the study without tears analysis, to see if there are things that are unique to your learning style that you could be doing to help you be successful in this course. Okay, so that said, as we look ahead at chapter 4, week number 4, we are focusing on Chapter 2, Communicating with Others. And you'll notice discussion posting and 2 responses to classmates are due this Wednesday on February 5th. I just wanted to clarify too, when you do your discussion postings, I kind of try to do the discussion postings, usually will cover the chapters right in front of it. So this discussion posting, most often I will find students pulling concepts from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. But please know that there is no penalty. So if you did discussion posting number 1 and you took only concepts from chapter 2, that's fine. Or if you did discussion posting number 1 and you only took concepts from chapter 1, that's fine. I don't have specific chapters that you have to pull concepts from. And so much of this will depend on how you are responding to these questions with your own personal examples as to what concepts that you'll want to apply in your postings. So again, no, you don't have to use those chapters. I just have got the discussion postings kind of lined up with the 2 chapters that you did right before that discussion posting is due. So for this week, you're going to do discussion posting number 1, and you're going to respond to 2 classmates by Wednesday, February 5th at 11:59. And in just a second, I'll flip to that grading rubric so we can go through that. And then don't forget again now, Friday is coming around, so we have a quiz. Quiz number 2 needs to be completed by 11:59 on Friday the 7th. So a lot of times students will get their discussion posting and their 2 responses to their classmates done and then kind of feel like they're done for the week and then forget about that quiz on Friday. So please don't do that. Also, just a quick note too on Chapter 2, you most likely noticed a big difference as you moved from Chapter 1 into Chapter 2. And just a little bit of background. Chapter 2, when they did the second edition of our textbook, they brought in a new author to do that second edition or the revisions. And Chapter 2 is written by the new author. So you probably noticed, if you've read it already, you probably noticed a big switch in the way that the chapter 1 was written and the way that Chapter 2 is written. Please don't let that concern you. Chapter 2 is a pretty abstract, theoretical type of chapter. What the author is doing here is trying to give you kind of a foundation on how social science research is conducted. So what he's doing is offering you all these different kind of ideas and theories and concepts that will give you some foundational knowledge so that as we go through the rest of the textbook, that you kind of have an idea of where the researcher might be coming from. Please know that this is an abnormality in this textbook. When you jump back into Chapter 3, you will see it again being written much more like Chapter 1, very concrete, very hands-on, very skill-based. Here's what you can do to make yourself more competent as you look at your communication skills. So Chapter 2 is kind of a strange one. Please don't get frustrated. I know there's a lot, again, not a lot of abstract concepts and theories there. Hang in there. They're just trying to give you kind of that theoretical base. Like I said, Chapter 3 gets right back to very concrete, very skill-based. That said, however, please study very thoroughly for this chapter quiz. The material is a little bit more different, or excuse me, a little more difficult, and it's a little bit more dense material, so please do take your time. Allow yourself a lot of time to study and really understand those concepts. But again, know that this is the only chapter that is different from the rest of the chapters, so don't get too frustrated with Chapter 2, knowing that we're going to return to that real easy to understand and apply concepts as we move into Chapter 3 and beyond. Okay, I'm going to switch documents here, and I'm going to flip over to the grading rubric for our discussion postings. This is the same grading rubric that you have in the packet that I handed out at the orientation. It's also the same grading rubric and descriptions that are located under content in our course D2L site. So the first thing that you're going to see as you look at this document is you will see a description of all the discussion postings, and then on the very bottom, or on the, excuse me, the second sheet, you will see the grading rubric. So let's go back up here. Discussion posting number 1. I do have the related reading is Chapter 1, what is interpersonal communication and how do we study it, simply because the question asks specifically about communication competence, and communication competence is addressed at the very end of Chapter 1. Now, you don't absolutely have to apply communication competence as a concept in your discussion posting. It just made sense to me that most of you probably would do that. So here are the questions that you are going to be answering in this discussion posting. The first question is, what are some examples of knowledge that would lead to improved communication competence in your life and relationships? So that's the first question that you're going to be answering. The second question is, what motivates you to be a better communicator? So 2 questions that I'm going to ask you to respond to, and I'm just going to kind of go down here and down to our grading rubric. Remember that each discussion posting is worth 10 points. 8 points for your response to the discussion questions, and then 2 points for at least 2 responses to your classmates. Says pretty clearly the following rubric will be used to evaluate initial discussion writings, which should be 100 to 150 words in length. And this is important, folks. Please do not attach your posting as a document. And the reason I say that is a lot of students do not like to open Word documents just simply because of viruses and other things. The other thing that I find is that students don't take the time to open up a classmate's Word document when everybody else's is cut and pasted right into the text box. So please do not attach your discussion posting as a document. Instead, cut and paste your discussion writing into the discussion text box. Just a quick little note. If you are using Chrome as your browser, well, let me back up a minute. First of all, D2L does not recommend Chrome as a browser. It recommends Firefox. It's much easier to use and to move around in D2L with Firefox than it is with Chrome. But if you are using Chrome, know that you cannot use cut and paste into D2L. You have to highlight your if you're in Word, you have to highlight your writing, use Control C to copy, go into D2L, go into the text box, and use Control V to paste. So it's not a simple cut and paste from Chrome. Very easy to cut and paste from Firefox. So I just wanted to mention that. Responses to classmates will be evaluated holistically. In order to earn a particular score, responses must demonstrate a majority of the characteristics in that category. Responses of less than 100 words will not earn a score of higher than 4. So again, if we look over here on the left-hand side, we see an 8, which is an A, or a superior response. We see an 8 response displays a clear and in-depth understanding of the reading. And you notice this is highlighted in red, including 4 definitions from our text with page numbers, or if you're using the e-text, you can use chapter and section numbers. But you do need to apply concepts from chapter 1 or chapter 2 for this particular posting and include 4 definitions with citations. You also need to clearly address the question, and in this case questions because there's 2 questions posed. You must provide an original and thoughtful answer. I'm looking for you to clearly connect the ideas from various readings or experiences. I'm hoping that it's written in entirely your own words and it's free of grammar or mechanical errors. And this last piece, folks, is why it's very helpful to compose first into Word and then cut and paste, because you can grammar check, you can spell check, you can do all those things that you want to do to make sure that your writing is at a college level. Again, just a quick reminder, know what I would call texting language. Make sure that you cap your I's, make sure you use punctuation, make sure you use full sentences, make sure that you check grammar, make sure you check your spelling. This is a college level writing assignment. One of the things that I really want to encourage you to do is to pay attention here, in that I want you to make sure that you're connecting what you're reading through the text, which would be your 4 definitions, to your own experiences. So write about your communication experiences. This is what makes everybody's response a little bit different, is because obviously you've all had different communication responses, or excuse me, communication experiences. On the bottom here it says responses to other students' postings will be evaluated on a completed or not completed basis. At least 2 responses to your classmates must be posted. And responses need to be 50 to 75 words. So for your responses to classmates, you do not need to cite text concepts, but you do need to have responses that are at least 50 to 75 words in length. Okay, so that's the grading rubric. Again, I'm happy to take a look at your writing if you get it done and you want to send it to me. I do need to get it at least a couple of days before the assignment is due, just so that I have time to review it and then email you back suggestions. So if you do want me to take a look at your discussion posting number 1, please do get it to me tomorrow, which would be Monday, February 3rd. And email it to me, and then I will take a peek and email you some feedback just to make sure that you are on the right track. And once again, folks, if you have any questions, make sure that you let me know. Make sure that you send me an email. Remember that I'm here, and that's what my job is, and that's what my responsibility is to help you navigate and understand the material that we are covering in the course. Hope you have a good week. Stay warm, and please let me know if you have any questions, folks.